bringing you inside the USL Championship and League One.
Segmer's got there. Marquinhos! He's been knocking on the door. He knocks it down.
Diving into all the biggest stories and top headlines.
You are ripping and roaring today.
This is USL All Access.
It's almost impossible to recreate that level of magic.
With Mike Watts and Devon Kerr on SiriusXM FC.
Welcome, everybody, to a new edition of USL All Access. It's the opening round of the Open Cup. Every team in the championship has debuted for the year. Rhode Island, it turns out, saved their best for first and for last. Loudoun leads the East, if you can believe it. And now we're down to no playoff Ownby and no playoff Patino. Also, Wilson with Devon coming up. The Louisville striker joins Devon for a sit-down. That, you know, is I'm sure going to be just fascinating. With Devon Kerr and Emmett McConnell, Mike Watts, welcome to the show. Devon, welcome to you and me going through Open Cup banter. Enough of talking about the format. That's happened. There's transfers and loans and new stadia to talk about. We're all over the place. Let's roll.
The most important thing we have to get out of the way right now. Nice to see you again, by the way. Love the attire.
Yeah.
Castaway. Overrated, underrated, right where it should be, given your intro.
Properly rated.
Properly rated? I think it's underrated.
Didn't it win an Oscar?
I don't know. He didn't.
Tom Hanks?
Not for that role.
Everything this guy says is a stitch.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
I like the kit, man.
Yeah, look, credit to the guys. Connor did us right with this Sacramento kit.
But for the record, we did not plan this.
No, we didn't. We popped
I
up.
can tell you, man, there's a level of elasticity in this that I'm not sure I've ever experienced. It's quite delightful.
I would agree with that. I'm also going to
God.
say that these are the two shades of me after being out in the sun too long.
Red and redder.
Yeah. Red
Burnt
and then
crisp.
burnt. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, did you get? I got a nice little note. Mine wasn't from Connor. Mine was from JJ.
Oh, the whole team's in on this gig.
Yeah, and ironically enough, the kit, which also has
amazing.
Yeah, I actually posted on social media today a picture of play-by-play announcer Joe Malfa and I recreating the Arnold Schwarzenegger, Danny DeVito twins photo, which I think we did quite well.
I mean, given that Schwarzenegger is at a certain height, I think it all makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm reading it. He says, when grabbing this, I asked myself, is this dynamic broadcasting duo, am I Schwarzenegger or DeVito? It's a fair question between you and I. Who would I be?
Yeah, I mean, relative to Joe?
No, you and I.
Oh, I get to the chopper. You've been saying that forever.
100%. I mean, that's circa 2018, the Vegas drop.
Yep, the cash drop.
We all know where Joe Malfa sits in this situation, and it's on a stool next to me because he can't ride the go-karts.
That's accurate. Again, as we've told one player specifically in this league, your feet have to touch the pedals to play in this game. All right, Dev, let's get after it. The news that broke yesterday, Santiago Patino has been sold to Ho Chi Minh City, that is Vietnam. The fee is undisclosed. If you've been around the league long enough, you know that whenever Patino has been in San Antonio, he's always put up good numbers. But in the playoffs, specifically, he is different. Earned him the nickname all-time scorer for that San Antonio team. Scored in the final. That's one of my favorite goals that I've called in this league, and I've done it like 435 times. Games. What do you make of the move? Because obviously, for a team that already on paper didn't have a ton of goals in them, this is a pretty aggressive move. And I'll note that Santiago did give a jersey to Alan Marcina that Alan tweeted, thanking him. Thank you, coach. You changed my life. I think this was a mutual thing. This was for his benefit as much as anyone else.
You've only called 435 games in the championship?
Give or take.
I'm surprised by that number. I thought
We'll
that would have been
500
higher.
this year.
Yeah, but you and I done like 300 games together now.
We've done like 235.
That's it?
That's it.
I'm only 50% of your life?
In this league.
If I'm not, okay, just making sure. Because if I don't get up above that half mark, certainly once we hit the century, if I don't get up above that half, I'm playing for second place.
Yep.
I do think he changed his life. I would agree with that. right? Net value, the importance to a squad, tactically what he was capable of. He became an unselfish player of sorts. Now, you certainly still want that streak within a striker, but I think it got him to work more. Like, the work rate was the biggest thing. You could make that argument for anyone going into the San Antonio organization, right? I can't disclose what the value is. I can tell you this. That unselfish nature, I'm surprised that this move was made, hearing what salary he was on and what he went to. It surprises me because it's not that far off. I can tell you that. I know for a fact that the numbers are not that far off. And so, given the success that both he and the organization have had in San Antonio, certainly since Alan Marcina took over in 2020, it's the Western Conference finalists, it's the wins, it's the trophies, it's the individual accolades. I am surprised that he stayed. And yet, I get it. There is a level of maturity that sometimes does or does not exist within a player. They see dollar signs and they think it's a better opportunity. Financially, sure, it's more money. But again, the variables at play, these situations are not that far apart. It is going to hurt San Antonio in the long run. Both you and I can agree on that.
Yep. Dev, let's chat about a couple other stories that caught our interest during the week. There is reporting out of the Bay Area that Oakland Coliseum has a new tenant. I'm not going to touch whatever's going on with the other club that is coming into the Oakland area. I think that's probably been pretty well covered, and gradually maybe we get there, but ultimately the town is the Roots. That's what it is. The Coliseum will host the Roots and the Soul in the 2025 season. The plan that they've had in place is to build a modular stadium on the parking lot adjacent to what used to be Oracle Arena and the Oakland Coliseum, assuming that those eventually get knocked down or repurposed. We saw it with North Texas, right? They did it with the old ballpark in Arlington. Hopefully they're able to make it their own, but it's going to be pretty cavernous. It's a huge venue.
Yeah, it's pretty big, and that's probably our biggest concern, right? Is you get some of these teams. Remember Hartford at the Rent? And
yeah,
it kind of when it didn't matter. That opening game had like 14,000 people or something. It didn't matter because the stadium held 60.
right.
And so it just seems like all these great cultures and noises go off into oblivion, regardless of how much you work to get everybody in there. But as critical as I am of Oakland on the field, I'm much more forgiving off the field because of what they've been able to do and how good that culture is there. That organization, that community, they're bought in. If anybody could sort of twist it to make it their own, it's got to be the Oakland Roots, right?
Right. So it's big news. What happens next? If anything, it gives them one location. They are going to be settled there on grass. No more of this multi-stripe turf stuff going on that they got from a previous, NASL club in Oklahoma. I mean, enough. In that sense, that era hopefully will be over. And they'll get into a stadium that's more right size as they go. I thought this was really interesting loan news. Jeremy Garay got moved, and we've seen him go from DC to Loudoun over and over and over again. They sent him to El Paso this time, not Loudoun United. I don't know if that's because there's more vets in the midfield at Loudoun, and Jeremy would have had to have fought harder to get games. I don't know if that's Troy Lesane going, I know Brian Clarehout better. I don't know what it is, but I'm actually hugely intrigued by it.
So it's funny. I logged on this morning, and so everybody understands kind of how Mike and I work. We have a rundown that we work off of every single week. We add ideas and notes as the week goes on, but there's usually a heavy session between either he or I, or at the same point in time, to get it all going in one direction. So I'd gone on this morning. Mike had already put these notes in. This was one of the things that I wanted to talk about. So I had already reached out to Troy Lesane. I had already reached out to Ryan Martin. I spoke to a couple other people within both organizations. My thought going in was a change in venue. Freshen things up, give the player a new opportunity. Speaking with those guys, it's actually quite similar. What happens in these situations, Mike, and certainly for Jeremy, things become stale, and you need to try and freshen things up, get a new environment, get their blood back going again, and make them at multiple levels compete. Now, that means you want to challenge their soccer IQ. You basically want to pique their interest once again, and that's what's going on for Jeremy here. It's It's finding a way to challenge him as a player because he worked through the Loudoun system so quickly that he got his deal with DC United. He was well past the level at Loudoun at that point in time, right? We can agree on that.
Right.
But he found himself in this gray area where he wasn't getting first team minutes, but he wasn't being dropped down anymore. So DC couldn't drop him. Loudoun couldn't give him the necessary materials to continue to evolve as a player. And then it was just like, all right, his evolution stopped, right? He stopped developing, at least at the rapid rate that we saw. This is going to give him a chance under Brian to get more minutes to compete. You got Liam Rose and Eric Calvillo around you. I understand the conversation in Loudoun is very different this year, and we're going to get to that when we talk about the games. But I like this for Jeremy because most importantly for me, when I look at it, you want to allow the player to get better. That's exactly what this loan does.
All right, Dev, there's two drinks that I want to talk about here. First off, tell me Cherry Coke Zero and this jersey are not exactly the same colors.
They're not exactly the same colors.
They are the same colors.
No, I'm sure there's some sort of patent.
Maybe you're right. I'm just saying I'm wearing the Coke Zero Cherry.
Big fan of Cherry Coke Vanilla mixed with cinnamon s'mores. You probably didn't know that cinnamon s'mores existed, but you put those two together.
Or that they're liquid.
Well, no, you have to eat and drink at the same time.
Okay.
The things that we come up with together is, gotta be honest, we're probably in the wrong business.
All right, Dev, let's quickly dig into this. Can I offer you a shot at glory?
Tell me.
League One, they brought up the League One Cup. It's an intra-season tournament. Really unique sort of concept. Shootouts in the group stage. Yeah, we've seen that next pro. Obviously, this is a little more minute given how substantial a win versus a loss is over 4 games than a full season. Goals scored acts as the first tiebreaker to incline more attacking soccer. I actually love that idea. Force you to go get more. I'd like to see that on every stage. I'm interested to see how it works out. Why do I bring all this up? The schedule's already been released. Now it's got a sponsor. Jägermeister Cup is the League One Cup. There are going to be numerous people that win this cup that will not be allowed to be photographed with it. I've seen this in the NWSL where it's like, we're drinking cider tonight. And you're like, well, she is. The rest of us are not.
Yeah, we're not going to be allowed to hold it, and we're not going to win anything.
Right.
Dude, by the way, I was thinking about this. I've always been a fan of Jägermeister. I know maybe it had its peak a couple of years ago for sure, but it's definitely a drink, if you will, that's up and down. Are you someone who drinks it neat? Do you want it chilled in a shot glass to sip on? Do you shoot it? Or do you have a cocktail that you prefer when it comes to Jaeger?
Shoot it and try and forget I ever did.
So I actually had this drink, hard to believe given my German experience. It was called a German Vacation, and it had Jägermeister, lemon juice, Peychaud's bitters, which is it's basically it's a different form of bitters that everybody knows that you see at the grocery store. They use it in Sazeracs, which is my personal favorite cocktail. Ginger, orgeat, which is a sweetened pressed almond liqueur syrup type thing. And I think there's another spirit in there, maybe rum. I don't remember. It's incredible. It's one of the greatest things I've ever had. The problem is it has Jaeger in it, and Jaeger pushes me to uncomfortable places that not everybody wants me to go.
We would
Can't
like
wait.
you to go
Love
there.
the fact that they're our sponsor and can't wait to be involved in the tasting process.
No doubt. Also, go look up the old, do you remember the video? Jaeger bombs.
Oh,
Jaeger bombs.
Jaeger bombs.
Got my fresh new cut. All right. Before we go to break, everyone's got their March Madness team, except for, of course, Fordham fans who have not been there in 35 years. But I want to give you another one to keep an eye on. I want to tell you about Keith Dambrot and the Duquesne Dukes. Keith is an Akron guy. He grew up there. He ended up coaching there in a number of different facets, not the least of which as the Akron Zips head coach for a baker's dozen years. He spent close to a decade in Division II. There was a moment of controversy in there. Ultimately ended up having to go all the way back to the high school game, where you could argue he got his big break and the lifeline he needed. He coached LeBron James at Akron St. Vincent St. Mary High School. He went from there to an assistant in Akron, 13-year run as their head coach. He's their all-time leading win getter. 2017, he gets the opportunity to go to Duquesne. Why at that point in his life, after some 25, 30 years of coaching, does he go there? It's his dad's alma mater. So he gets there. This is a program that had not been to the NCAA tournament in close to 40 years. His seat got really hot after COVID. 6-win season, only 1 win in the Atlantic 10. It looked like it might be the end of the road. And yet the last 2 years, 20-win seasons. In this year, they were expected to be good, but probably not the team out of a 1 or 2 bid conference to break their 46-year run without ever getting to the tournament. They were better from the jump than anyone expected. And then his wife was diagnosed with breast cancer. And in early February, she underwent a mastectomy. I spoke to him on February 23rd. That was about 3 weeks later. And he told me about his wife, Donna. And his team lost to Fordham that night. And there's a moment where he looked at me and said, Mike, I'm too damn old for this. And he walked off the floor, and I sent him a note. And we were talking about his son. His son is Robbie Dambrot. He plays for Loudoun. You know him from Pittsburgh and Indy 11 in his pro career as well. And how proud he was of his son. They have not lost since that game. 8 straight wins, 4 in Brooklyn at the A10 tournament, and they won their first bid in 47 years, beating VCU. Robbie spent the last 2 years dealing with injuries, Pittsburgh, Indy. He was at Loudoun before, and Ryan Martin wanted him back, in part because Robbie Dambrot might as well be a coach on the field. It's clearly a coach's son. When he was injured, he was still the first guy at training, and he was still the guy most involved in tape. Ryan Martin's gone to go see Keith Dambrot coach practice when they play at Pittsburgh. There's a really cool relationship there. All of this is to say, Duquesne's a really cool story. And it's one USL fans should definitely keep an eye on. They'll play BYU in Omaha on True TV on Thursday. But he one-upped it yesterday by saying, this is the last dance. I'm going to retire at the end of this season. I'll leave you with this. We sometimes forget that these are people, coaches, players. I sent him a note on Sunday after they got the automatic bid out of the Atlantic 10. And I said, hey, congratulations and good health to you and your family. And he sent back, you know, when we beat St. Bonaventure, I kept checking my phone because I wanted to see how Robbie did in his game. And they won that opener too. So when we come back, we'll look at all of week 2. And certainly this week, we've got a lot to preview, but certainly I'll be looking forward to Thursday as much as anything. It's coming up next on USL All Access.
Let's get back to USL All Access on SiriusXM FC with Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
Welcome back to USL All Access, everybody. Wilson Harris is coming up in about 10, 15 minutes. Right
Wilson!
Here on any part of the show that you miss, including us, ruining Castaway, is available on the SiriusXM app or also on the USL YouTube channel the next day. Yeah.
Mike, honest question here, just so that we're clear and we get this out of the way. Castaway, underrated, overrated, or right where it belongs?
It's where it belongs. This thing, gosh.
Just making sure we're on the same page. I think it's underrated, but that's just me.
Okay.
We need to talk about it now because you never know when you're going to get another chance.
I know. All right. Let's talk about a couple of results of note. Home teams this past week in the championship finished 2 wins, 6 losses, and 4 draws, which is kind of nuts. And if you had to pick 2 teams that were going to win, I'm not sure that Monterey Bay and Loudoun was the parlay you were going to go with, but you would have been right. Dev, let's talk about Loudoun. 3-1 win over North Carolina. Rough relaunch in our, for NCFC into the championship. All of a sudden here, Loudoun's got a win and a draw against San Antonio under their belt. They got goals from El Medcar. Zach Ryan scored. Abukara got a late one that sort of stuck a nail in it. Loudoun's starting to dictate a little bit more. Maybe it's just early, and we said this last year, but looks pretty good.
So, to your point, we did see it last year, and they slipped. But this is a different team because Loudoun didn't have the same quality, nor do they have the same depth that they have this season. No one's crowning Loudoun, saying they're going to do anything crazy. But Ryan Martin has given this team and I'm saying the team because the personnel has changed over the years, different looks, different ideas, different visions. That's not always the case for managers at this level. Not every team has the luxury of kind of pulling and prodding pieces to get them to play different ways all the time. Texting back and forth with him, he said it's kind of funny what happens when you add higher quality and more experience, right? That's where they're at right now. As far as the game itself, friendly reminder, North Carolina was not promoted because they won League One, nor is there a star that should be above the crest. I was actually pretty impressed with both teams for the opening 20 minutes. Loudoun seemed to take control. They slipped, though. Energy fell off in the game. They were moving it quickly. Nice decision-making, wide open. Towards the tail end of the first half, couple of situations back-to-back where concentration just fell off. And it was set piece after mistake, which led to another set piece. I think it was 4 in succession, if I'm not mistaken. Either 3 or 4. You know, numbers and I don't go well together. They give up the goal, but then right out of the dressing room, high tempo. Chase the game. All of a sudden, they're right back at it. Love what I've seen out of Zach Ryan. You and I have talked at length about him last year a couple of times and what he can bring to the game coming out of college. I've always had the belief. I think he's got soft feet. He's certainly quick on the turn. They're still without Cristiano Francois. This team has a ton of speed, and the question is going to be the level, I'll speak here eventually, of consistency you're going to get out of them. Again, in theory, you've added that in the offseason. What's the tenure look like for those players, though? How long will it last?
Right, no doubt. And then there's the depth element, the further deep you go as well. The game that everyone sort of had their eye on coming in, Tampa Bay and San Antonio. We both said this is the game last week. I think we wanted to know what both these teams were. New coach in one area, a ton of new players in the other. Jennings and Arteaga both score. That's probably Tampa Bay's golden ticket moving forward. The problem being Nogueira scored in the 83rd for San Antonio, and then Carter Manley scores in second half stoppage time to equalize. San Antonio actually had 60% of the ball in this game. The problem being, I've been told by people, great Premier League passing performances, 600, 650 passes. This game had 652 total. This was not the aesthetically pleasing game that will make you fall in love with that element of the game. There were 35 fouls, however, and they went tooth and nail top to bottom for this one.
I would say that up until the 80-minute mark, 70 of that 80 prior, the Tampa Bay Rowdies showed you that this could be the best team in USL.
Agreed.
That's simple. They were very good, structurally sound on the ball. I have said and will continue to maintain that I feel that Aaron Guillen, Forrest Lasso, I know Jordan Doherty was on the field recently, but help me. Center back. Big name. Help. I'm so bad right now. My brain is fried after the 24 hours and 2 planes in different time zones.
We're having a whole experience for sure.
Yeah, he's the
Kleeman.
Thank you, Freddie Kleeman. Dear Lord.
I just needed a moment.
Yeah, so Freddie Kleeman, Forrest Lasso, and Aaron Guillen.
We keep thinking Jordan Scarlett. It's like,
bingo,
dude, he's been gone for a year and a half.
Yeah, friendly. He was on the opposition last year, just never got a chance to play for Louisville.
Right, injured.
Yep. So Jordan Doherty steps in. But the depth of the team is high quality. I was very concerned for this team at the end of the game because they just battened down the hatches and they looked terrible. There was no interest whatsoever the final 10 minutes of the game. The level of aggression you can get out of San Antonio stepped itself up by about 10 notches in the final 10 minutes. It wasn't just sitting deep. It was mistake after mistake, decision-making, giving the ball away. They were reckless. And you allow a San Antonio team to hang around that long, eventually they're going to make you pay. Set pieces were interesting for me in this one too. I do sort of wonder, like, how long until we get a real idea of what the identity for the Rowdies will be under Robbie Nielsen. I loved what I saw out of Blake Bodley, by the way. I thought his left foot on the dead ball was incredible, and I have thought for a while that he's a very talented outside back, wing back hybrid type player who just needs some consistent minutes within a team, not bounced all over. But I want to know what this team looks like in week 8 or week 10. Are we seeing the same thing and they're just getting a little bit better? Have they changed it up? It's sample size week 1. We don't know yet.
Yeah, and there's a ton of carryover from the past team too. We've seen this with a ton of coaches. You give them 10 games to find out what they are this year.
Some coaches have also taken that the wrong direction and run teams into the ground.
Correct.
I don't see that happening with the Rowdies. They're still one of my favorites to come out of the East and fight for a title. But
Right. Dev, let's shift out to the West here for a moment. Monterey beats Phoenix 1-0. Phoenix has not scored a goal. The only other team in the league who has yet to score, Pittsburgh. So the Shield winner and the champion, saw this floating around X, have not scored. Baca scores. Phoenix got yalloped. I don't know a better way to put it.
So give credit to Monterey Bay.
Yep.
I will give my homage there. I thought the game was sloppy in general, to be fair. If we lean into Monterey, great. You're at home. You know, it's fine. You did what you had to do. There was nothing groundbreaking within the game itself. I thought Movi Fair had a pretty decent game in midfield. Luther Archimed still trying to get his feet wet up top and find some consistency there, though that argument could be made for him really every season that he's had so far. Not that his pro career is that deep. Phoenix on the other side, it's just going to take some time. Again, it's easy for us to sit here, criticize, and analyze what's going on, but having worn those cleats and been in their shoes, Mike, I know it takes time because the Revolutions aren't going to be the same in general, yet alone from a title-winning team that lost so much. I do believe in the team. I do believe in their process. I had some interesting back and forth with a couple of Phoenix fans that said, I don't know about the attack. I don't know about Cabral. What is Armanakis going to do? Gone are the days where it's going to be one guy.
Yep.
You and I can both agree that although a player can go and get the individual job done, and certainly in the case of an MVP or the Golden Boot, very rarely do we see the title team come out of that conversation. It's usually, and especially the past couple of years, Mike, it's spread around. You still need a 12, 15, 17 goal scorer, but more often than not, it's going to be like 13, 14, 15, and then another 10 and another 12. You find a way to kind of hit the lottery with your entire attacking unit. It's the same conversation we had with Sac last week, right? Yep. So it's like, oh, it's Russell Cicerone, great, but Sac's had everything. They've had a goalkeeper. They've had great defending, beautiful midfield play. They only had one double-digit goal scorer for the last 5 years. It happened to be Cicerone last year, and there was nothing else around him. So I don't anticipate Phoenix being that poor, respectfully. I do think it's going to take a little bit of time, and they just need to find a way to get all of those guys to contribute.
All right, a couple other games we'll give a passing glance to. Orange County did beat Pittsburgh on the road. It's the Hounds' third straight loss going back to the playoffs last year. They hadn't done that since June of 2022. Pittsburgh only lost one home game last year, best record in the league at home, and they lose their home opener in front of a sold-out crowd. Memphis and Indy, 2-1 in favor of Indy. They get a road win. Oscar Jimenez was sent off for Memphis. It just doesn't feel right yet. Akeem Ward was sent off late in stoppage time while they were trying to get back into it. Blake, a penalty. Douglas Martinez in the 42nd. Memphis had plenty of chances in that. Ultimately, really sloppy. The whole game was sloppy. And then Colorado Springs falls to Detroit. Elvis and Mo scores early. Connor Rutz in the 89th with the ultimate winner. Koa Santos sent off for Colorado Springs. They're down a man for half an hour. Colorado only 2 shots on target, and they scored one of them out of their 12 shots. Dev, something to add on any?
Just 3 quick things. Number one, you said earlier in the first segment that Santiago Patino, one of favorite goals that you've ever called. I'd make the argument that his goal in the final, the third one, is the best team collective goal that we've had in a USL Championship final. Right?
Yep.
Coming off the left with Christian Pirano, finding the run out of the midfield, the ball to the back post. They sort of did everything right in that situation. I loved watching it. I loved calling it. I would also add that for Memphis, you have to say Oscar Jimenez's name in that fashion. Memphis for the rest of the year. I challenge you to do so. If not, it's a penalty every single week. And I want to tip my cap to Rhode Island because I do, although we didn't cover it at length, the amount of fans that they had, the sold-out crowd, they got better as the first half went on. They were better in the first half in general. Finally got Albert Dikwa involved. Koke Vegas coming on. They want to play, and they knocked the ball around nice. They controlled the entirety of the match. Alex Tambakis had to make 9 saves in the game. Thought they did really well for themselves week 1.
All right, Dev, as we head to break, the movie Castaway did receive 3 awards. It did win a Grammy for Best Instrumental Composition. That was Alan Silvestri for the end credits. It won a Golden Globe for Best Actor in a Motion Picture Drama, Tom Hanks. And coming up, you're going to hear from the 2001 Critics' Choice Awards winner for Best Inanimate Object, Wilson. That's a real award. Hand to God, a real award. Wilson Harris, not inanimate, with Devon. I'm walking the cat. Back in a moment on All Access.
Giving insight to all the biggest moments in Championship and League One. This is USL All Access on SiriusXM FC with Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
Welcome back to USL All Access, everybody, here on this beautiful Tuesday evening, March 19th, 2024. We're very fortunate, as Mike Watts mentioned before he took the cat on a walk. Coming back from break, we're joined by Wilson Harris, striker from Louisville City. First and foremost, recognition due, young man, because on the weekend with your goal, you became the youngest in USL Championship history to hit 50 regular season goals. How's it feel, man?
Thank you, Devon. Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, it's something I've been chasing for a little bit. I felt, last year, on 49 and knowing that record was up there, I wanted to, start on the front foot this year, and really happy.
Let's go through the journey, man, because, I think a lot of people that are new to the USL Championship or maybe haven't paid attention in terms of tenure, you've been around for quite some time. I say that in a good way. I've had the opportunity and pleasure to cover you since your academy days at Sporting Kansas City. People that look up and think, wow, I'm just figuring out who this person is. It's no joke, right? You were the young player of the year back in the COVID season, 8 goals in 16 games, of course, an abbreviated year due to COVID back in 2020, a long time coming. You leave Sporting Kansas City after the homegrown deal. It doesn't go your way. You fit right into the mix at Louisville. And then Watts and I always talk about this. Louisville just has these injury things, right? It was you, it was Cam. We've seen it with Brian before. When you guys are on the same page, you're going to rip it to pieces. It seems like everybody's healthy now, at least for the most part. I know Brian just stepped out, but it kind of feels like this is where everybody's healthy. You feel comfortable. Kind of walk me through your journey at Louisville so far over the past couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, it's been, honestly, I couldn't ask for anything more, really. Struggling with the first team at Sporting a little bit to get playing time, and I just wanted to really get more experience in a high pressure situation, which it is at Louisville. There's a lot at stake, and I think it's just been such a great club for me. I thank Danny, for giving me the platform to do what I do, but I think coming here, it's just kind of clicked for me. And I don't know, I feel like I always tell people that signing with Sporting or Swope at the time when I was 18, I felt like that was such a good experience for me because I was surrounded by players like Haji Berry, Tyler Blackwood, Carlton Belmar. That was the starting 3, and they were just tearing it up. And I kind of just got to watch that and experience men, playing. And just baby steps, and just finding new ways to score has always been, I still work every day, finding new ways to score, but going from 18 to 24 now, my game has developed, a lot because of those guys. So I'm forever grateful, forever thankful to those.
I want to stay on the topic of Louisville itself right now. We mentioned some of the injuries before, everybody getting healthy. People talk about this new look Louisville, right? For so long, Louisville City had such tenured players that allowed them to have continued success. The transition started a couple of years ago, but in 2024, this is really the first time you kind of look around and go, okay, there's names there, but the old guard is kind of gone. Take everyone in that locker room. What's it like? Is it, hey, this is our opportunity now? Is it, okay, it's pressure because we still got to pay homage and carry this burden in the best of ways of what has been the most successful club in USL Championship history? What's it like being in that locker room with everyone?
Yeah, I mean, we know the responsibility, and we have so much respect for, our veterans who are still in the locker room, and Brian, Niall, they play a huge role in the locker room, and giving respect to Paulo as well, who's now in the staff. Um, I think it's super important to remember that, but also I see guys, wanting to take it, you know, take it by themselves and really push for that next championship. So I think everyone's really pushing each other to try and do what those guys have done. And I think it's super inspiring for everyone to, come in, and, we were hungry. It's very competitive. Our weeks, we train on Wednesdays, we'll scrimmage, and it's always super competitive. So, you don't take a day for granted here.
Talking with Wilson Harris, striker from Louisville City in the USL Championship, just became the youngest player in USL Championship history to hit 50 goals in a regular season. The strike rate is incredible all around you, man, your entire professional career. Quick follow-up, by the way, on that locker room. You mentioned Paulo, on the coaching staff as well. Got to be careful how I phrase this. Does he talk more or less than being on the field as a coach now?
I I don't know if it's hard to say. I think less, but I think he has a wider view, because you get to take a step back and help us on the little things. And he's always been super helpful with young guys and older guys. He knows how to push people's buttons and help us move forward. And, I think he's doing a great job shifting into that more coaching role.
Let's talk about personal goals, right? And this is both individually and as a team collective. You've had some of those individual accolades already. As mentioned, Young Player of the Year with Sporting Kansas City too. I'm like you, by the way. I say Swope Park Rangers and Bethlehem Steel. I'm ride or die. I'm sticking to that. You can't change my mind. Young Player of the Year, youngest to 50, as we just mentioned. You are part of this Louisville team that made a run to the final back in 2022. When you set up your season, what does it look like? Like, what are the direct individual goals that you're trying to set? This could be this year. It could be in the next 5 years. And then as a collective, what are you trying to do with this team, with the next team? Like, what is your overall ambition?
Yeah, I think for me, I really want a championship personally. And also on a more personal note, like, get to, around, I'm shooting for 20 goals, and I would just want to push myself to that next level, whatever that may be. And I know if I put myself in that position in the USL, guys are able to move forward with their careers, and I think that's always a big motivator for me.
Do you have in the USL Championship, and if not, who is it? Do you have a mentor? Do you have someone you admire? Is it like, who do you model your game after? Who are you trying to chase?
In the championship, I think when I was younger, like I said, with Swope, I think Haji has always been a mentor for me. Tyler Blackwood was, honestly, he probably took me under the wing the most back then and really helped me, develop my game. I would watch him. But yeah, I mean, I have tremendous respect for a lot of the forwards in this league. I think some of these guys are doing amazing things and deserve, accolades and credit as well.
Couple more, bud, and we'll get you out of here. Almost done. I want to double back here to the roster for a second. I mentioned new look Louisville. You talked kind of big picture about the pressure that can be on you guys, what you all are trying to chase. I'm kind of curious, relationships and where the emphasis is most put on, right? Because some of the quote unquote older names, old guard, right? Sean Tosh is still there. You mentioned that Paulo's still on the coaching staff. Of course, Niall's still there. Wes isn't part of the old guard in the sense that he didn't wear a star back when they put it on in 17 and 18, but he was part of the group that John Hackworth brought in 2020. So he's seen a couple of seasons. Who are the leaders in the group directly that you guys look to for assistance? And I guess maybe who do you think has the most pressure on them in terms of being brought in? That could be you as in the striking position. That could be a central midfielder, a young one, and Mogul, right? Or Mogul. Sorry, I know we changed the pronunciation. That's fun. Like, who do you look around and think those two are like the most pressure and kind of who the leaders are?
Yeah, I mean, Brian is a huge figure in the locker room. Unfortunate with his injury right now. Niall McCabe, everyone has huge respect for Tosh and Wes and, Kyle Adams, who just got announced to captain.
Captain, yep.
Yeah, I mean, Amadou Dia, I have huge respect for these guys, and they're guys you want to win with and fight for. It's we have that sort of locker room where, everything's kind of, I feel like everyone in the locker room wants to help each other get to that next level, whatever that may be. So we're always pushing, maybe that little bit more for each other.
I'm sure. I got to cut you off for a second. I'm sure there's something within your comments of that group pushing more. I'm sure there's something in there as well of creating your own identity, right? Stepping outside of what has become this storied club. Is that fair?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, 100%. I think that's one of my biggest motivators this year is trying to continue to make a name for myself. And I think most of the young guys in the locker room want to do the same thing. I feel like we're very like-minded in that way.
Love that. All right. Probably the most important thing that we're going to talk about today. We did a little bit of research, and obviously it's fair because you guys share the same name, Wilson. But we were talking about the movie Castaway. Now, some information has just come to me as we are doing this interview. Mike Watts was kind enough to let me know that you were one when the movie Castaway with Tom Hanks came out. First off, have you seen the movie?
It's just such a bad look, and everyone says it to me, but I have not seen the movie.
Oh! All right, well, the question floating around right now is Mike Watts and I obviously get into these ridiculous comments back and forth. Is it overrated, underrated, or just right? So because you haven't seen it right now, you're going to say it's just right and just leave it at that.
Yeah, that's right. I got to check it out. I do. I think it's about time. It's about time I see the movie, but I always love when I see people doing posting memes about it on Twitter and stuff. So
look, just tell Danny Cruz, head coach, that we're going to skip a film session. We're going to put Castaway up on the screen. You hang out, you watch it, get some popcorn. It's not going to ruin the diet. It's not going to kill the abs. Make sure Danny sits in the back row so he's got a high enough seat. We want him too close, vertically disadvantaged at times, obviously. Wilson, appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much. Awesome. Wilson Harris from Louisville City. Thanks for having you, buddy.
Thanks so much, man. Appreciate it.
There goes Wilson Harris, striker, Louisville City. Again, if you just were under a rock for the past 12 minutes or so, youngest player in the history of USL Championship to reach 50 regular season goals, and some pretty good company. I'm sure there's more success in his future. Can't wait to see what he and Louisville do the rest of this year in 2024. Let's preview the games, weekend games. Let's get a little mailbag when we come back.
You're listening to USL All Access on SiriusXM FC. Here are your hosts, Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
Welcome back to USL All Access. The cat is intact and back in the barn with Devon, Emmett at the controls. Mike, we have plenty to cover as we close out this week of All Access. Yeah, Dev, the cat's fine. What? Did you know Castaway got $427 million in the box office?
I'm shocked it didn't do more.
Did you know that?
That's why it's underrated.
Did you know that it was a better movie than Gladiator, but got snubbed at the Oscars?
That's not true. Wilson Harris, overrated, underrated, right where he belongs after that incredible interview, and the youngest player to ever hit 50 regular season goals in USL Championship history.
Best interview I've ever heard. And if you missed any part of it, SiriusXM app and USL
underrated?
YouTube page.
Is he underrated?
Yeah, probably.
I think he's underrated as well. He's not getting enough credit. And what to me last year would have been, after his Louisville inaugural season, going back and forth with Cameron Lancaster, if he was healthy, I truly feel that he would be and still can be the best striker in the league. Let's see how he does now. I like him a lot.
Yeah, my problem with Wilson is you're judged on one thing, and he's really, really good at it. So why are we not giving him credit for that? You're a striker.
Exactly.
Your job is to score. The man has scored on a goal every other game or better basis since he was 18 years old.
To your point, the only time that people have consistently spoken about a striker doing something else other than putting a ball back in the back of the net is because it became so publicized for Adam John at Phoenix Rising, who, if you remember, his agent and Adam John actually had a shutout clause worked into his contract. Do you remember this?
I do.
Because of how he was told he was going to need to play for the big bad wolf known as Phoenix Rising. Record-setting team, goals all over the place, bringing him in and the pedigree that was Adam John. They said, listen, you're going to have to chase. You're going to have to run. It's going to be a little different. He said, no problem. Sign on the dotted line. Put my bonus check in the mail, and I want my royalties when we win all these trophies. They won a couple.
Yeah, he did not get paid in donuts. I know that. All right, Dev, what's your best game this week? It's worth noting that the Golazo Network game this week, free on the CBS Sports app, Pluto TV. It'll be on local TV in Orange County. OC and Miami, 10 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday. You can see it on the CBS Sports Golazo Network. I'm going with a nautical theme, Yar. Monterey Bay and Rhode Island. This is where I was going to get my Rhode Island tilt in. That was awesome. That was so cool. They play Sunday on the West Coast, 6 p.m.
I'm torn between San Antonio for a second week in a row. I know I picked them as my game of the week against the Rowdies. Their match against Colorado Springs, who couldn't defend a set of cones right now. It's been that bad defensively. Or the Indy Sac game. I know everybody's going to look at Louisville-Pittsburgh. I'm just not that in tune with that matchup right now. Historically, it's done great things. Certainly, we've seen it in the playoffs. But Indy at home. Jack Blake, who's going to be part of my mailbag. I'm taking mailbag over in a second. Hosting Sac Republic. Trevor Annan scores again. All of a sudden, they got to score a couple weeks in a row here.
Ruh-roh. Dev, let's chat about some news coming from, our guy, Sasha Kleshin, your colleague with Apple TV. He announced he would play in the Open Cup, and darn it, he is. He's going to Iowa to do it. This isn't heaven. This is Des Moines. Playing for the Menace, 38 years old. He retired after 2022 with the Galaxy, capped 52 times with the U.S. For one, love that he put his money where his mouth is. He cares about the tournament, so he's going to go play in it. I absolutely adore that.
Yep.
Second of all, if you could play for any team in the Open division up to MLS, who would you play for in the Open Cup?
Up to MLS. So it could be a USL.
It could be anybody.
I'm going to make it simpler because I don't want to stump anyone. I'm going to go with a lower division amateur team. And I'm not just saying it because we're talking about it right now. It's Des Moines Menace. It stretches back for me. Growing up in Nebraska, they were founded in the early 90s, and I got an opportunity to see them a couple times in the mid 90s before my move to South Florida. And that just kind of stuck with me, just like Creighton soccer did. I want to see this tournament continue. With a win against the NISA team in round one, they can become the winningest lower division team in U.S. Open Cup history. They actually, in 2006, won 3 games in back-to-back fashion against professional squads. Also, so that we can go on the record, and I could put my money where the mouth is, there's a great shop called Pro Rel Soccer Shop. They're based out of Texas. They put together for the Open Cup, Mike, a poster. It's
amazing.
in the shape of an Open Cup, and it's all the teams that have won the Open Cup and their badges. I bought 5 of them. Some of your money out of the purchase price is donated to your favorite lower division club. Before we had this conversation, before Sasha, who's got the second best mustache in the game behind Tom Bogert in this country, my money went to Des Moines, also known as the artist formerly known as Des Moines Menace. Go get them.
All right. Love to see it. All right, Dev, how about we hit our favorite segment? You're taking it over, which means I get the joy of saying,
mailbag. Jack Blake had 6 goals in preseason. He already has 2 in USL Championship play in 2 games. His career high, Mike, was in 2019 on that beautiful run that Jimenez and Olave had the Real Monarchs on. He had 8 in the regular season, 3 in the postseason. 8 plus 3 is 11. You're welcome for the math. My question is, can he break his own single season record?
If he's going to take penalties like he did this week, absolutely he can.
Yeah, don't do my boy dirty like that. He's playing well, bro. He's healthy. He's
not
healthy.
not disagreeing, but if your first 5 come that way, can Sean Tosh, if he stops being a penalty taker, beat the number he had? Like he had like 11 goals in a season too, but it's because he was like 8
Wasn't
of
it
8 at the
9?
spot. Yeah, sure, but you get my point.
Can
Not
we
a knock on Jack.
Can we call Jack Blake's celebration the Blake down? I don't think it can with the bow and arrow. I think he needs something new. Not knocking the celebration, but the Blake down is back. And when I texted him, by the way, he said, "Dev, I never left," and then gave me some emojis that I can't verbalize on air. I was saying it in a good way. He got angry.
Oh wow. You won't like him when he's angry. He's an angry little elf.
Yeah.
All right, Dev. You learn anything from this show?
I learned that our brains are, in fact, in sync, even when we don't want them to be. And that is a knock on the Backstreet Boys because NSYNC is better. So is Justin Timberlake. And these sack jerseys are fire. Good job not coordinating, but also coordinating.
Yeah. And I learned this was the only thing that we were trying to coordinate with. Cherry Coca-Cola Zero Sugar. For Devon and Emmett, Mike, thanks for watching, listening. If you missed any part of the show, SiriusXM app or on the USL's YouTube page. We'll talk to you again next Tuesday night. Enjoy the Open Cup and enjoy a great week of football, everybody.
This is USL All Access. If you missed any portion of the program, listen back anytime on the SXM app.